All right, so for this assignment, telling a joke with broadcasting, you're going to learn how to use broadcast and receive blocks to have your characters have a conversation by telling a joke back and forth. So what it's not going to look like is right here, where one character says something and it waits while the other character says it, and they kind of have to like wait back and forth. It can get really hard if you're making a more complex program where after it says icebergers, then it changes to an ice background. Then you have to figure out how long it waited for and kind of practice and change that timing. If you change one thing, then you have to change a lot of other things. So it just makes it really complicated. So a better way is to use these receive and broadcast blocks. And I'll explain kind of the difference between this broadcast and wait. And you're going to have your two characters that are in some sort of background tell a knock knock or other joke that you want. And there has to be at least 5 receive and 5 broadcast blocks. And then adding in some movement or costume change or background change. And I'll give you guys some ideas too. Underneath here, I kind of have an example of what it looks like. So with my two characters, character one's code would look kind of like this, and the second one would look more like that. So how this works is that when character one says this message one, it says it for however long you need to. So if it's a really long message, you can make it 5 seconds or 1 second or whatever you need. And then it broadcasts and waits for the other character to receive that message and say its thing. So without that and wait, they kind of overlap on top of each other a lot. So you want to make sure you use that broadcast and wait. So then once the computer program can tell that it's done with that receive block, then it goes back and automatically moves on to the second message. Then it broadcasts message 2, and they receive it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those match over here. So it kind of correlates with it does this and then it says that and does this and it says that. You don't have to number them. You could use whatever naming you want to, and I'll show you that too. But numbering is a good way to kind of keep things in line and you know what order things go in. So you don't mix things up or have it say their reply to a different one. Um, so I'll show you an example in Scratch. So I have my two characters. I need my dog to switch back to its basic thing. There we go. So both of these codes are the wrong way to do it with the wait 2 seconds. You can see with the dog, he has to wait and then say something and then wait and say something. And basically, whenever there's a wait block, the other character is saying something. But if I wanted to add in a third character come in, I'd have to figure out how many seconds, and it can just get really complicated, and you have to change a lot of numbers if you change one thing. So I'm going to separate these off of the flag block. So I'll start with my first character. So it's going to look similar to this. I'm using the broadcast and wait. So I'm going to make it say my beginning. And these broadcast and receive blocks are in the events category. So I'm going to use broadcast and wait, and then do my next message. Broadcast and wait. The next one, broadcast and wait. So if I were to do this, the big thing that's going to happen, the dog's going to say the same message every time because it's broadcasting this message one every time. So this broadcast is just something that the computer can see, like in its code that we can't see it sending this message all around the screen, but it basically lets the rest of the computer code to like look and see what's supposed to happen there. So if I broadcast the same message, the dog's going to always say the same thing. So I'll leave that one as message 1. Maybe this one, I just want to do message 2. So that could be, you can just do numbering, or I could just do 2. Some people like to do it exactly like with if they're saying something. So that's exactly what the cat said. You can do it that way. It's up to you. So that's how my cat program would start my character 1. So with my dog, my character 2, I wouldn't have a flag block. I'm going to be using this when I receive. So you can see how that one's rounded. That means that this is a top block, just like with the flag or when the key is pressed. So when I receive that message 1, I want him to respond with hello. And then I can do when I receive the second one, message 2. I want him to respond with that. And then maybe I'm doing okay too thing, so he receives that, and I want him to say, I have a question for you, and I know he has like a thinking costume. And actually, I want to make sure that he starts with his correct costume. So I just added this at the beginning. I want to make sure the dog is starting like this costume instead of being on like this thinking one, or else it doesn't really change. So when I click the flag, we'll be able to see them kind of talk back and forth with just those say blocks. So then you can see he changed the costume. He says, I have a question for you. So then the cat could respond with whatever he wants and then broadcast another thing. And maybe this one, I want them to like ask if he wants to go on a trip to another place or something, or whatever you want with your knock knock joke, or whatever joke you're doing, or little conversation they're having. But you're going to have 5 of these broadcasts and 5 of these received. At least 2 characters. If you want to do a group of 3, you can do that. It's the same thing. You just have to kind of keep track of what's broadcasting, what's receiving, and then adding some sort of animation like changing costumes or background, or want to see a trick and they spin around in a circle, something like that. At the end of the joke, or if it goes with your joke, or it's just a little extra bonus thing at the end. But that is kind of how this works.